by 11, okay? And so basically you're setting the physical attributes of the file. Here you can see that this is a portrait mode, this is a landscape, and if you click it, they actually switch, and you'll see the numbers. As I click them, you'll see them switch. And it's actually 85. Points are really important. 8.5. Okay, your artboard is the space around that's outside of your artwork. In Photoshop, this is kind of a new option. But if you click it, you can, I think you can place things outside of the border. Well, you can in general, but I'm not quite sure what it does. This option is for Illustrator, or I've learned about this option in Illustrator. I'm not quite sure how it works in Photoshop. Your resolution is this, how do I put this? And I'll have examples of this, but basically it's how many lines or how many dots are in a certain area. And in this case, it's like an inch, but I don't think it's a square inch. I think it's just like a line inch. Again, we'll come back to that. Color mode is a deep rabbit hole, which we'll come back to. 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit. This has to do with how many ones and zeros that the file uses. And again, I'll come back to that. Your background is when you create a file, what it starts out with. So the first layer will be white, or if I click on black, it'll be black. The transparent means that there's nothing there, but it has to show something, so it'll just show white and gray little squares. And that's how you know that there's nothing there. It's a transparent background. In advanced options, you have color mode and square and your pixel aspect ratio. And so this is really complicated stuff. So there's stuff for like video, anamorphic, stuff like that. It's not something you have to really worry about as a beginner, but I will talk about color profiles when we jump into this rabbit hole here. Okay, are we ready for this rabbit hole, guys? Yeah, okay. So color mode.
I just want to interject for just a moment. Just so you all know, we do have a counselor here. I didn't introduce. But if you all did feel like pressured, or not pressured, but if you feel like you need someone to talk to during this lesson, she is there for you. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, color mode. So we're going to go into Photoshop Workshop. Here we go. Okay, so before we get into color mode, let's go to color depth. So something I can cover really easy. So as you might remember, color depth is your 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit. There's a couple names for it. Color depth is one of them. Go back to here. So this is color, or example of a color depth. Can I open this in Photoshop? So this is an 8-bit color depth. This can happen to your images. So if you have a sky and it transitions from a dark blue to a light blue, this color banding here can happen. Okay, and then you get these artifacts, these little dots and all that stuff. So this is what can happen with 8-bit. As you go up in the bits, you get more color range, and so this is a 24-bit, which is really kind of high. So with 8-bit, was it 2 to the 8? No, 8 to the 2 power. Anyways, so it comes out to something like 256 colors in any given color. So like in red, you could only have 256 colors. And that's why this color banding can happen. If you go to 16-bit, you get something like 26 and some change thousand color color depth. So you get a more smooth transition. Let me show you what it looks like in a picture here. And so if you look at the sky, try to zoom in more here. I don't know if you guys can see it. You see the color banding happening in the sky here? You see that shift? Very visible. Yes. Okay. So this is what can happen when you're an 8-bit. So just kind of be aware of that. And again, this kind of goes back to what is the end product of the file that you're going to be using. And let's go back to new. There we go. Okay, so color mode. I think we're ready for color mode. Color mode. There's 2 words in this option. One is color, the other one's mode. These folders all kind of discuss mode, but before we get into mode, let's discuss color. So what is color? Anybody know what color is? Can you get a guess? Somebody.
It's visible light.
Light. Very good. So color is light. And what is light? It's an electromagnetic force. It's a subatomic particle. No, it's photons. Okay. Photons are the universal speed limit, which is kind of interesting. And there was an experiment, the double slit experiment, in which, can you guys see this?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So they shot a particle, and in this instance, they shot a photon between 2 slits. And they wanted to see which one it would go through. And they found that it actually worked as a wave and a particle. Okay. And so because it's a wave particle, it bounces off objects. Let's go back here.
Yeah.
Okay, photons. Color theory. All right. So we have the visible color theory. Here we go. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. Just wondering if I have to open it up in Photoshop. So yeah, the color of the rainbow, right? But we're talking about, Denny. Yeah, Denny wants to join. Let's wait for Denny.
Hi,
Right.
Denny. Welcome to the class. John is teaching us how to do digital art. So far, we've opened Photoshop and have selected a file type. That's where we are now.
Hi, Denny.
I had a bad link, so
Uh-oh.
I got in this way.
Okay. So continuing, color is light.
Bad link, so I got in this way.
Are we good? Okay. You see this, Denny? So continuing. That was weird. All right. So light.
Probably the Facebook Live.
We're doing on the Facebook Live. I don't know.
Oh, it's your echo, right?
No, because he had said something and then there was a delay and then it said it again. That's
Alright,
weird.
well, let's just keep
Maybe it
going.
was a glitch.
Let's just keep-
Yeah, okay. So light. In light, there's only 3 colors, RGB, red, green, and blue. And if you imagine that we're in a dark room and I had 3 flashlights and they each had a filter, a red one, a blue one, and a green one, and you put it together, let me open this up. So if you put them together, as you shine them on the wall, as they cross, they'll create white light. And this is called addition color, because you're adding color to make white, okay? And this is how basically the universe works. When the sunlight casts its ray on us, it has all the color of the light. Also, screens and phones work this way too. So they're projecting light straight into your eyes. And this is how computers work. And this is largely how Photoshop works. There we go. Can I move this around? Here we go. So yeah, you can see that with RGB, they're used on screens, TVs, and phones. Okay, that's RGB mode. You see CMYK mode, which we'll talk again, is going to be print. And this is how TVs work. And this has to do with the resolution. Remember I told you about the resolution in dots per square inch. So there's a line that goes through. I mean, I think everybody's seen this. And it makes up an image, right? So that is how this dot, the resolution works. So in that line, within an inch, there's so many dots. And like I said, some of this stuff is going to overlap and it might not make sense the first time I talk about it, but as we go on, it should hopefully come together and you'll understand better. RGB mode. So oftentimes, if you're going to make a file and you're just going to look at it, say on the internet or your phone or a TV or something like that, you're going to want to use RGB mode. Okay. That's not to say that you can't print it. So if you're going to print using an inkjet printer, there we go. Inkjet printers, and I can go into how they work if you need to. So basically this ink comes out, hits a paper. That's how inkjet printer works. So if you're going to use the inkjet printer, you can use RGB as well. Or a laser printer. Laser printer. Again, come on, no preview. So what happens, the laser comes through, hits a series of mirrors, it charges a cylinder. Those charges tell the nozzle how to dispense the ink, and then the ink hits the paper, and then the machine heats up the paper, and basically it fuses the ink to the paper. And that's how laser printers work. So you can use RGB with that. And there's a whole host of things you can use RGB for besides just looking at it on your monitor. Vistaprint. So a lot of times you're gonna maybe send stuff to Vistaprint to print cards, business cards, flyers. You have an image maybe put on a mug or a pen or a bag. You know, like if you go to Vistaprint, they have a whole host of items you can put images on. If you're going to do that, just keep it in RGB mode and you'll be okay. All right, and let me go back to Photoshop real quick and show you. So once you're in RGB mode, you'll have a color profile mode. Okay. If you're going to somehow print, say inkjet or laser print, or you're going to send it to Vistaprint, you want to work in RGB, Adobe RGB 1998. If you have an Apple product, you could use your Apple product, but for printing in RGB, Adobe RGB 1998 is your optimal selection. If you're going to just look at the image on a phone or a device and you're never going to print it, sRGB is the most optimal profile in your RGB mode. Okay. Now, let's say you started off in sRGB and then you decided you're going to print. You can still print. It's not a big deal. It's just that these are the most optimal for the task at hand, but they can cross over and it's not that big of a deal. All right, so that was kind of the easy one. Let's go back to, there we go. Color mode, CMYK, which CMYK is another color mode. Anybody know what CMYK stands for? Any guesses?
Does it have some chromatics? Chromic, I don't know.
So CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah. And so this is a mode of color that this deals with ink and paint. So now we've moved out of light making colors. And now we're talking about, oh, maybe we should talk about how that works before we move on. Did I put it in here? Color theory. No. All right. So as light travels and it has the colors in it, it hits an object. Whatever color you see that object, it's that color specifically bouncing off that object and into your eyeball. So if you see a red ball, all the colors in the rainbow is penetrating that ball, except for red, and red is bouncing back. One second. Let me turn that off.
Okay, we're good. Sorry about that. We have a Bluetooth in the room. We're good. Oh.
Hello, hello. You guys hear me? Did that thing just freeze? Start up.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello? You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
We had a technical problem there. All right, so where was I? Bouncing light. Yeah, so a red ball. So the red in the light hits the ball, bounces off, and hits you in the eye, right? That's how you see color, which is it's interesting because that means that that ball is actually every color in the rainbow except for red, but you see it as red. So it's the opposite of red, and that's what you see. It's really kind of interesting stuff. All right. So with CMYK, now we're talking about I think it's just, can you give me a second, guys? Yeah, it's like turning on and off. More technical issues. You guys still hear me okay? Hello, hello?
We're
Yes,
here.
we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Color theory. Color mode. I get back to color mode. All right. So CMYK is basically pigment. So you're seeing pigment and you're laying down pigment in such a way that you create colors. And this is what we think about when we think about the traditional primary colors, right? Red, yellow, blue. Except for primary colors aren't really red, yellow, blue. They're magenta, cyan, and yellow, and black. And so when you cross all those colors, you actually get black. And this is what we use in professional printing, like magazines and newspapers, certain flyers. The most popular type of printing is called 4-color separation, in which they separate the colors in one color image. They etch it onto a plate. And this is what you're seeing over here. And they have 4 of these plates and they print them together and then you get a color image. They put the plates on a cylinder and the blank pieces of paper go through the cylinder series and that's how you get the image. And in this case, you're using the white of the page as your white. As an RGB, you're putting all the colors in light together to get the white. So it's kind of the opposite. So you're just using the white of the page. Another popular method is called flexography, or flexo for short. And basically what that is they make plates out of rubber stamps for the most part. And they make a whole row of them and it's called web printing. And they have this paper that feeds through. And basically the biggest thing that I've seen that they use this for is sticker labels that they put on products, like when you go to the store and you buy Windex or something like that, they have a sticker label on it. This is largely what they use it for. This is how they make the plates, which I won't go into, but if you do want to know, I can. Yeah, soda cans, insulated wires. So if you look at a wire, it might have some lettering on it. They'll use a flexo to put that lettering on it to let you know the rated wire and insulation or whatever. Yeah, this is CMYK printing. Okay, and let's go back to Photoshop so I can kind of show you where we're at in color mode. Okay, so you have bitmap, you have grayscale, you have RGB, which we've discussed. We have CMYK, which we've discussed, and we have lab colors, which we haven't got to yet. Okay. So the next one would be grayscale. And grayscale is basically part of color theory, and it has to do with the value of colors. And so this top one is a dither pattern of dots to get a gray scale from black, obviously, to a white. And here is a smooth transition. And here's another one. So you can see the smooth transition and you can see the different scales. This one is a 5 scale, which is white to fully black. It's 5, and there's only 5 steps. But there's actually an infinite amount if you slowly go through this and you pick a different value as you go. And so to show you what I mean. No, that's something we didn't discuss. Well, here's a image of how color bounces, right? Okay. So black sucks up all the color, white reflects all the color, and when you see red, it's just the red. And, oh, but here we go. I can use this, I think. So here's a color image, and color has value. So let me just do that real quick. That's right. Here we go. So here's the color, a black and white version of the color that we saw. And as you can see, red is kind of a mid value between black and white. And that's what I mean that color has value. Okay. And that is the color, or in color mode, that is grayscale. So if you just want an image that's black and white, you can click grayscale. And bitmap is even more basic. And let me show you an example of a bitmap. Is it in here? Bitmap, here we go. Well, this is what bitmap. So if you had an image, a picture of David, obviously, it would come out like this if you chose bitmap. So basically, it's just a series of black dots on a white background. And if you wanted to use this, obviously, you wouldn't have very much detail. But there's times when you want to use a bitmap color mode. I guess maybe making just simple images, maybe for a GIF or something like that. You want to use that. Lab colors. So lab colors is for photographers. Okay, and it gives you the most color range and color options to mess around with your photos. And so this this delta shape here is the full visible colors of what a human can see. And these little triangles inside are the different colors that each mode can actually produce. So you can see that RGB is this white color triangle, and it can produce all these colors that are inside, but it can't produce all these colors outside. sRGB is this black one, and again, it produces all the colors inside, but it can't produce colors outside. CMYK, you can see, is this crazy one. But like I said, we're gonna talk a little bit more about this kind of stuff. Just kind of trying to bring you through these concepts as fast as I can. Here's another version of that schematic. And this is, again, this is how you do lab colors. So with a color, excuse me, with a color, there's three things that you can do with color. There's chroma, there's tint, and there's shade. So chroma is the brightness of the color or the hue. As you do things to it, that brightness gets dulled. So if you take yellow and you added purple, which is right here, this is blue, but if you added purple, you begin to gray out the chroma. You would dull the brightness of that yellow, and you would actually start to get it to a gray, a colored gray. And if you took yellow and red and you mix those together, of course you get orange. But that orange might still be at a high chroma, but it wouldn't be as in a high chroma as yellow. Okay. You can add black to it, and that would be, if you took black and you add black to a color, that's shading. So you would shade the color. And if you added white, then you would tint that color. And basically, this is how you use color lab tools to adjust your colors. You think of it in this schematic, okay? And so, but basically, Color Lab is for photographers. If you're not a photographer, then you might not want to be using Color Lab or Lab Colors. Pantone is an offshoot of CMYK, and basically, they're swatch colors, and they have something called Pantone books. And if you want a certain color in your, let's say you made a logo and you want the font in your logo to be a specific color, when it prints, those colors correspond to numbers in these Pantone books. And so when you say, I want something like, I want red 256, when you tell a printer that, basically that red is universal anywhere. So even if you never showed that person or you talked to that person in person, but you told your printer that you wanted your text to be red 256, it'll always come out red 256, which we'll kind of get into this a little bit more later. But these are called Pantone colors and spot coloring. And so Pantone is kind of an offshoot of CMYK. So instead of using the 4 colors, you might be using 1 color or 2 colors. Say in a t-shirt, you might want to use just a few colors, because the more colors you use in a t-shirt, the more expensive it gets. Spot coloring. Oh yeah, I did that one. Okay. So other examples of why you would use spot colors. Well, businesses have colors that are specific to them, like Food for Less, and they actually have them trademarked. So this yellow is probably a custom color that they've assigned a Pantone number to, and this color is copywritten. Another one, say Allied, this orange is copywritten, and so if you tell the printer, the color, the Pantone color for the orange, it always comes out the same exact orange. Again, the green in the beacons, always the same green, you give them that Pantone color. When I was making skateboards, I would spot color. So I would take, let's say this color right here, this pink, and I would tell the printer that it was going to be this specific pink. So I just didn't give him the artwork and let him figure out the Pantone number. I off somewhere, like in the artboard, there we go again, we're coming around. In the artboard, there would be a box of color, which would be matched to this color. And then in text, I would say it was pink 456 or whatever it was. And that's how you get specific colors in spot coloring. All right, so I told you color was going to be a rabbit hole. And then again, I'm just covering just the surface of color. Okay, so we've done CMYK, we've done grayscale, we've done lab, we've done Pantone, RGB, all right, we've done all this stuff. So let's go back to new. All right, so as we're, okay, so say we're in CMYK, and you'll see that there's a bunch of different color profiles. This is for what you're doing. See, here's a newspaper. So if you're doing a newspaper, you'd want to use this newspaper print, right? Some things have coatings, some of them don't. So USA Web coded, right? USA Web uncoded. So these are just different profiles that you would use for the specific job that you're doing, and you would have to talk to the printer about which one to choose and which one they're using. Okay, and so there we go. That covers all the options in the new file. Okay, so basically, what I'm trying to get at is when you create a new file, think about what the end product is, how it's going to be used, and you're going to want to use these settings to choose the optimal options to get the best results out of the end product. All right. Now, quickly, if we just go through here, these are some pre-created popular dimensions, right? So this is 5x7, and 300 resolution. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't really talk about resolution. Okay, so if you're going to just look at something on the internet or digitally on your screen, you can use 72 resolution, right? But if you're going to print it in any way, shape, or form, you're going to want to use 300 at the very least. Okay, and these are kind of popular stuff, or very important information. Okay, 72 and 300. And just real quick, if you're going to be editing in certain things, so certain options in editing in Photoshop won't be available if you choose bitmap or CMYK or even color lab. The most editable type of color mode is RGB. So if you're going to be doing editing, like if you're going to add like cool effects and do stuff like that, which I'll show you some a little bit later, RGB is the most editable type of color mode. When it's all said and done, you can switch it to CMYK. It's just that you're going to have to do color corrections. You're going to have to kind of change the color because the colors don't quite line up. But that's something that you kind of have to learn. So when you send it to the printer in CMYK, when you send it to the printer, you're not going to know what it looks like. And so you're going to send it to the printer. You think you'll have an idea. It comes back and it's going to be not quite what you expected. And so you might have to tweak the colors a little bit. So what I like to call, you have to walk your colors to where you need them. So your reds might not be quite right. And so you'll have to adjust the settings or your tools to get the reds where you need them. Okay. But this is something that you'll have to get experience with. And it's just trial and error. And I think, oh wait, yeah. So photo print illustration. Okay, so up here you have different options. Saved. Currently, there's no saved ones. Photo. So these are templates for photos, and see that they're all 300 because it's assumed that you're going to print at some point your photos. These are some other templates that you can download for free. Some of them are free. I think some of them you can buy. Here's a print option. Legal. See, this is legal for the legal size tablet. Tabloid magazines, A4, I can't remember what that is. Your regular letter, obviously. Art and illustration, you can see these are done in pixels though, but these, see a poster, here's poster size postcard, 300. Web, these are file sizes and dimensions for stuff that's just gonna be on web, excuse me. Your phone, and again, here's templates you can download. And then of course for film and video, because you can do some basic stuff with film and video in Photoshop. Photoshop's kind of come a long way. Okay, so now that I've kind of covered just this one window, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, the 300 is to print, and the 72 is to.
If you're just going to look at it electronically, say you're going to see it on your phone or on the internet or on the TV. If you're just going to look at it on a screen.
All right, thanks. That's
Yeah.
what I need. Thank you.
And let's see here, let me go back to here. So this is kind of what it would look like. Resolution, here's resolution. So here's an image, and I'm gonna try to open it in Photoshop so I can make it bigger. Okay. So you can see here, this has a higher resolution than this one here. And here's some details. So you can see the eyes. It's still pixelated, but you can see the one on the right is way more pixelated than the one on the left. Okay. And as you put in more resolution, as you make that number rise from 300 to 600 or whatever, these pixels or these squares they get smaller and smaller and smoother. So the downside of putting in a higher resolution or having a higher bit depth, instead going from an 8-bit depth to a 16-bit depth, is that you make the file size bigger, and so that's the downside. So if you don't have a lot of storage space, or if your processor isn't very powerful, it might struggle with a higher resolution or bit depth file. Also, I think a higher bit depth kind of messes with the editableness of some of the files. So if it's at a higher bit depth, you might not be able to use some of the filters and some other options. Okay. That work for you? Leslie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, perfect.
So
Thank
what I like to do though, I like to actually work at 600. So I boost it from 300 to 600 and it becomes like ultra fine. So what I did, Leslie, for your logo is I boosted it from, from Illustrator, which I'll talk about a little bit later. When I opened it in Illustrator, I boosted it to 600, okay?
you.
And so it's super clean.
By
But
the way, John, they
yeah,
loved it. They loved it. I ran it by the board. They loved it. They are amazed. They said, we didn't know it would look that good in color. And they loved the white to black and black to white.
oh, nice.
So kudos, chops.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so your color mode and your bit depth and your resolution is going to affect your file size. And again, like I said, it depends on what's the final output of the file and what options you're going to choose in those options to get optimal results. Okay, so if we're done with that, well, I'm gonna move on, and we're going to kind of just go down these as fast as we can. Okay, so new, which we already kind of open, will open the file, a folder where you last opened a file. So this is the last time I opened a file. Oh, actually, it's the last time I saved. So I actually opened a file from Dropbox and then I saved it onto the computer that I'm using, and it opened the folder to where I saved last. Okay. Open smart objects. So there's these things called smart objects, which I won't get too much into. And this is, I guess, how you open that. I've never used this, so I don't know. Also, if you look on the side right here, you'll see that there's shortcuts, key binded shortcuts. And it would behoove you to learn these shortcuts because they're just really, they just make life easier. Okay. Oh, one thing I did not mention, I'm sorry, let me go back a little bit into new, okay, and the world of digital graphics, okay? And so what is super important, which I did not touch on, is the elements of design. Okay. And if you go to the wiki, there's a wiki. Here we go. Visual design. So if you're going to be an artist, and this doesn't go for graphic artists or if you're just going to be an artist, okay, these are the artist's bread and butter. Okay, the elements of design, and there's the elements and there's the principles of designs, and you can go to principles of design and look it up for yourself, because this class doesn't really focus on that. This class isn't really about that. But if you want to be an artist in any general sense, these are your bread and butters. Okay, so learn these concepts, practice these concepts, be these concepts, and your artwork will improve 100-fold, I promise you. Okay, now I know that they talk about learning the rules or breaking the rules. As an artist, I can break these rules, right? Well, first, before you can break the rules, you have to know the rules. You have to know how they apply, and then you can actually go around and break the rules, okay? But before then, learn by heart the elements of design and the principles of design, okay? Okay, moving on. Okay, so smart objects, open recently. So in open recently, those are a drop-down list of all the files that you've opened and edited recently. And so if you can't remember like exactly, hey, where did I save that file? You can kind of go here and find it and open it, okay? Close is close, obviously, close all. As you can see, I have a few tabs open here. And if I go close all, it closes them all. And then I get if I didn't save something or I edited something, it'll ask me if I want to save it. And I'm going to say no. See, now these are unselectable to grayed out. So let me just get a file going. Close all and go to bridge. So Photoshop has this thing called bridge, and you're able to select files and do certain things from there. Okay. Save. I haven't done anything to this, so save is not an option. Also, I haven't saved it before, so save is not an option. Save as is an option currently. And let me open save as real quick, and I'll just kind of go through this really quick. So here in save as, you can change the name of the file, and you can change the file type, which is really nice. That's what Photoshop can do. So you have Photoshop file type, you have a bitmap file type, you have all these different GIF, you have all these different ones, JPEG. You have a PDF, you have raw files, PNG, and TIFF, okay? And you can have a little bit of, some options here, like you can save color profiles, save as a copy, whatever. There's some options there. And then revert. So if I opened up an image and then I started to edit it, and I didn't like any of it, I could hit revert and it would go back to the last saved instance of the file. And that's what revert does. Export allows you to basically save the file. It's another version of save as, but you don't get all the options of the file types. So you only get PNG, JPEG, GIF, and SVG, but you do get more options to saving options, okay? So if you need to, say you can change the pixels and stuff like that, the resample rate, canvas size, it just gives you more options, but more often than not, I just use save as. Generate, I'm not sure what that does. Share, you can send it to different things. Photoshop has added a host of new stuff since I've taken Photoshop, so I'm not quite sure what they do. You can add links, like email links and stuff like that. Automate. So you can tell Photoshop to do certain things, and then you can open up a file and then tell those different commands to apply to that file. So let's say you want to change the bit rate, and say you want to change the resolution, say you want to change the color mode, and you wanted to make it a little bit smaller. Well, you can tell Photoshop that this is the sequence of events that you want to happen, and then you can open up a file and then apply it. Instead of doing it one at a time to each file, you can just tell it to apply what you want it to each file as you open them, and it saves a bit of time. Scripts. I don't remember what that does. Import. So let's say you want to scan a file from your scanner and start to edit it, or you can go to imports and you go to WIA support, and in here you'll find your scanner, which I don't have a scanner turned on at the moment. And then another little helpful note is that you need to have your scanner turned on before you go in here. So if you have your Photoshop up and then you turn your scanner on and then you're like, oh, I need to scan something, you won't be able to see your scanner. You'll have to turn your Photoshop off and then back on, and then it'll recognize the scanner, and then you'll be able to scan. Okay, so if you're going to be scanning, make sure you turn your scanner on before you try to scan something. File info just gives you information about the current file that you have selected or highlighted. Print obviously is just print, and there's a whole host of options. This is for your inkjet or your laser printer, or whatever type of printer you might have hooked up to your Photoshop. And there's a whole host of options in here, which I won't be getting into. Print one copy is just print one copy, and exit is to turn off your Photoshop. Okay. Okay. Any questions about the file tab? No, we move on. Okay. Your edit tab. So if you have undo, you have step forward and step back. So if I do certain things, if I make a mark, there we go. And these will become highlights. So I can undo, I can step forward. So and I can step back. So undo is just the last thing you did. I can also hit Control Z and it'll go back and forth. In some of the newer Photoshops, if you hit Control Z, well, currently I'm hitting Control Z and it'll step it forward and step it back. So I'm putting it there and putting it back, just hitting by Control Z. But some of them, like the newest one, like the one I have at home, if I hit Control Z, it'll step back like this, and then I hit Control Z, it'll delete this line that's there currently at the moment, and which is step back. Fade brush, this has to do with your brushes. These are your copy, cut, copy, paste, which is kind of your Windows functions, but like I can highlight something and copy and paste it. Search, spell check, well, spell check, and those of you familiar with like Word, your find and replace is say there's a misspelled word and you need to, and it's misspelled in every instance, you can click on here, find it, and tell it to correct the spelling in every instance. Fill, so maybe I should go through some of these before we move on. So fill is if I have a selection type, okay, and here's my bucket, and I can fill it, okay. So basically, that's what this is, fill. And so an option comes up with some stuff, and it'll fill inside this this selection, which is taking too long. Search fill. Okay, fill stroke. So yeah. So stroke is something like, and I gotta have it on its own layer. And we need to talk about layers. There's so much stuff we need to talk about. Okay, layers. And this, okay, so this is a really good moment. So this is my layers. And think of layers as having different pieces of paper that are like on a cellophane. So they're transparent, okay? And so you draw something on one cellophane layer, and then you draw something, and then you layer them over, right? So that's layers. Now, when you first start off, it'll be in a background, okay? And you'll see this little lock. When it's in this background mode, there's a lot of things that Photoshop won't let you do. Like you can't apply filters, which we'll talk about filters in a little bit. But there's a lot of things that Photoshop won't let you do because it's in this layer is in background and it's locked. And I think this is kind of a new thing, so maybe I can kind of just unlock it. No, it won't just let me unlock it. So what you do is you double click on the name, this window will pop up and it says layer 0, and you can click OK. And you see the little lock is gone. So now there's a lot of things that you can do with this layer that you couldn't do before. And it doesn't matter what you name this layer, as long as you just name it something other. You can even name it background again. And you'll notice that it's not locked. So it doesn't matter what you name it, you just need to click on it and change it from its original background, okay? Let's try to get through edit before I get into these tools. Okay, fill and stroke. Okay, yeah, stroke, this is what we're doing. So I'm gonna make another layer and I'm gonna fill it. Okay. And so a stroke is basically a line that goes around the outside of a silhouetted object. And I don't see it here. All right. Let's do the stroke. This is the size of your stroke. It's in pixels at the moment, but I can say like I want it 1 inch. Okay. I could change the size of it, or the size unit like that. Let's make it 3 so we can actually see it, and we'll make it red, and we'll put it on the outside, and we'll capacity. Okay, and so now if I zoom in, you can see that there's a red stroke around it. So that's stroke. That's what a stroke means. Content scalable. So when you edit it, this keeps everything scaled to each other. So if I make something big over there and something small over there, and I want to scale it, I want to move something, change the size of something, it'll scale both of the items. Puppet wrap, I'm not sure what it is. That's not something that you really need to worry about. Free transform, it's control. See, you can see here it's Control T. So basically, I just know this as Control T. I don't come here. But free transform gives you this box, and you can shape it and spin it and do different things with it. And then hit enter, and it leaves it the way you want it. Transform is basically free transform, but you get specific things. So free transform is I can scale it and do all kinds of things with it at one time. But if you just want to do like scale, then no matter what I do, oh, I guess it does do this stuff. Oh, that's weird. All right. Basically, I just use free transform Control T all the time. I never use any of this stuff. These things right here will rotate it. Obviously, you rotate it 180. This will rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, counterclockwise. This will flip it horizontal, like that. And all right. And flip it vertical. Okay. Now this will do the same thing. So say I had an image, and not just a shape, but I had an image. It would basically mirror the image, whatever way I wanted it to. Here with horizontal and flip. Okay. Purge. Oh, this is for your clipboard. You can clear your clipboard. Adobe PDF presets, and basically if you're going to save it as a PDF, there's a bunch of presets to save it as. Remote connections. I don't think you have to worry about that. Color settings, assign profile. So basically these are color settings, convert to profile. Keyboard shortcuts. So you can click here and you can change your key bindings for certain shortcuts. Okay. Menus, again, this is your menu, and your toolbar, which is this thing up here. But preferences, and I did want to talk about preferences. So inside preferences are all these options, but if you click on general, you'll go to this window, and of course all those options are here. So in general, you can pick your color mode, do all these things, sign, place, beep when done, resize images during play. So some of these you might not have to worry about: interface, workspace, tools. Okay, so here you can turn on and off tools, history log, export. You'll have your options for exporting. So right now, when I export, it just kind of defaults to a PNG. Performance. This is kind of important. So if you have a slow machine, you can go in here and you can mess with stuff to try to get your Photoshop to run a little smoother. Scratch disk is, you can allocate your hard drive to use as RAM. So if your computer is not, if you don't have enough RAM to run Photoshop, you can use some of your hard drive space. Cursors is, which is kind of cool. So you can change the way your cursors look to suit your preference. Transparent gamut, units, here we go, units. So you can set your units. So in my rulers, it's set to inches instead of millimeters or centimeters or something like that. You can just default it. Basically, these are just your defaults. So I'm telling it to, when I open up a rulers, it's going to be in inches. When I tell it to be in different sizes, my type and my font, it's going to be in points. Okay. When I print, it's going to be at 300 resolution and my screen is at 72. Remember, we talked about this. Okay, so that's kind of important. Here's your guides, which is certain guides come out. When I hit my rulers, I can pull out guides, little straight lines, and they'll be different colors, and I can tell what color to be. Plugins, types, smart tools, glyphs, show font name. Yeah, don't really worry about that. 3D technology previews. So I would say that the most important ones in here are your units and your cursors. Performance. If your Photoshop's working just fine, don't worry about this one. Okay, so this is where you would find that kind of stuff. So that goes edit and then preferences down here at the bottom. Okay. Oops. Okay. So before we move on from these tabs up here, we're going to quickly kind of go over this toolbar. Okay, it might be kind of daunting for some people, so let's kind of go over them so you'll know what they are. So this one right here is basically your click. So if I hover over something and I click, I can drag it. So let's say I have a couple of different layers. And so I can, now this is on its own layer, I can click on that red and I can just move the red. I can click on this black and I can move the, well, this black is written on the background layer, so it has this white background, but you can see I moved the whole layer. Okay, now sometimes you might want to just select the layer and just move that layer because it's hard to click on and move the item itself. So you can click on this little button up here. Everybody see that? And now my auto select is off. So now I just select the layer that I want and I always move. So wherever I click, it doesn't, I don't even have to click on the item. I can just click wherever in the image and it'll move that image. So I want to move this, I can click over here and I can move it. Okay. Sometimes that's useful, sometimes not. Oh yeah, groups. So in your layers, you can group them together and it would move everything together. That's what that is. These right here are your alignments. So if you want something to align like up all the way to the top, so I would select these two right here and I would hit this right here and see they align to the top, or they would line together to the bottom, or they line together from its bottom to its bottom. Now they align to the left and they align to the right and they align center. Okay, so that's what these options do. This is your selection tool. If you click and hold, some of these, I don't know if you can see, but some of these have a little arrow on the bottom. And if they have a little arrow, there's multiple options inside that tool. So in this case, I can click and there's these different options. So there's the elliptical marquee tool. Basically, I select and I get these marching ants. And now everything inside that area can be edited. Anything outside of that area will not be edited, but only on the layer that you select. And I know we haven't talked about select layers, but let's say here. So there's this layer, right? And so let's say I want to delete whatever's inside that layer. So now I have a perfect hole inside that layer. Okay, I hit Control Z, I put that back. If I hit Control Shift and I for inverse, now it has selected the outside of that circle, and it will delete outside. Okay, and this is like I said, it's very important you learn these shortcuts. Control Shift and I for inverse. And I didn't mention this, but if you're using Macintosh, if you're using Apple products, when I say Control, your button will be Command. So instead of hitting Control and Shift and I, you'll hit Command Shift and I. Okay. All right. So back to my selection. So besides the circle, I can make a square. I can make a line. Obviously, that's vertical, and then a horizontal line. And then this is a magic lasso, is your lasso tool. And so you can actually hand draw those selections, okay? And these buttons are very important. Shift, Control, and if you're on a Apple product, it's Command, and Alt. So if I hit Shift, and you'll see a little plus by my lasso tool, and I do a little circle, it'll add a selection to what you have already. Okay. If I hit Alt, you'll see a little negative, and if I select part of the selection, it'll delete it. Okay. What else? Polygon. So basically, I think, yeah. So basically, this one is you just click in different points, and you can do however many that you want. And when you're done, it'll make a selection. I think I messed up. There it goes. So when you're done, it makes a selection, and there's that selection. So you can use points just to select what you need to. And magnetic tool. So this one right here will basically will magnetically, as best it can, go around a certain shape to get your circle. Oops. And there it is. See? All right. This is your magic wand. And so if you click on a certain object, it'll sample its colors, and it'll select that object based on its colors. So if you, this should be actually be at 72. So basically, it's usually at 72. So let me see if I can open up an image and maybe, yeah, here we go. Let me see if I can open this up. Let me show a better example. Let's say I want to, I want to click on this purple. I want to select this purple. Okay, so I selected the purple, and it's actually selected more than what I want. So I'm going to hit contiguous, there's a little button right here, and it's only going to select everything that's connected in that color range. So there, I have a selection, right? I could do more, I can hit Shift, and I can add to that selection, and there we go. So now I have the whole thing, right? But I have a little bit extra. Of course, I could use my lasso tool, and I can unselect what I don't need just by drawing it in, right? So now I don't want that piece of hair. So now I have a slightly better selection, right? All right, so what you can do though, if you want to get you guys getting a lot of feedback? You guys are good?
A little tiny bit, not too bad.
Okay, okay. You can, let's go back to this tool. You can raise and lower. So I want to raise because when I select this color, I only got part of the selection. So I want to raise it. Let's say it's going to raise it to 200. I'm going to select the side here, and I got more than what I wanted. Okay. So then we're going to go back and just keep adjusting. Let's say I want like 87 or something like that. There we go. So you can see that, I'm getting closer to what I want. But this is how you adjust the pixels that it's going to select. Okay, let's do 80. There we go. So that's a little, well, that's kind of what we had last time. But that's how you kind of select the colors or the pixels that you want, is that you kind of mess with this up here. And then let's say this purple is here and this purple is here, and you want to select all the purple, then you just click this off. So you click off contiguous, and it'll select this purple and this purple, everything that's in the image that's roughly the same color, it'll select it. But it's a very rough selection. So you might have to use some of these other tools to get the selection that you want, okay, the mask that you want. This tool right here is your crop tool, and there is some other stuff, but let's just use the crop tool for now. Deselect. And so let's say I just want just this part of the image, and now I just have that one part of the image as opposed to all, the whole image, right? So that's a crop tool. If you look down here, you'll see color, and it's right now it's red and yellow, red and white. I'm sorry. If I click this button right here, it'll change it to the default black and white. And right now, since this black is forward, if I click on my paintbrush and I paintbrush, it'll choose black as the color. Or if I choose white, it'll choose white as the color, right? Okay. So let's say I want to choose a color off this image, and I'm going to choose this yellow over here. Okay. Now you'll see that this this square is that orange color or yellow color. And if I go back to my brush and when I paint, now it's that yellow color. So this is your color chooser. It's one of your color choosers. Brush, pen tool, different tools you can choose the color for. This is, moving on, this is your clone stamp and your pattern stamp. So your clone stamp is you hold down shift and say right there in the eye. And then if I click and I paint, you'll see that I'm cloning that section of where I clicked somewhere else in the image. And that's your clone stamp. This is your art history and your art brush. These are a bit complicated, but they're kind of like your clone stamp, except you have to do a little more setup for them to work. But we're just going to skip them for now. This is your eraser tool, and right now, if I erase, it just erases in black because I have background. See right here, background with a little lock. So if I double click on that, and like I said, let's name it background. Background. Like I said, it doesn't matter what you change it to, as long as you change it. Now, if I erase stuff, you'll see that now it's transparent. This is what I mean, like certain things get unlocked when you change the layer name. This is your paint bucket tool. You can do solid colors. So let's just put this on here, and I'm actually going to make another layer. And then you grab your paint bucket tool. And right now we have this yellow right here, right? You click in there, and then now that area is that yellow. Or if I switch it and it's still selected and I click in there, it's going to be black. Okay. So that's your paint bucket tool. Now you can do a gradient, and now you get these options up here. And if I click inside here, I think I get let's choose this one. oh, I have to click and drag. There we go. Click and drag. There we go. So so you get a gradient, and you can mess with these gradients. There's these different tools. So this is a circle gradient, and this, instead of being, you know, a line, it'll circle. So these oranges will be like a ball in the middle. You have your different modes and your opacity, and this is actually at 90. So basically this is 10% transparent. And yeah, if you look at it, you can still see this lady's eyeballs. See her eyeballs right there? So I didn't do a 100% gradient, and that's why you can kind of see through it a little bit. This is your shape tool. No, this is your blur tool. So blur, sharpen, and smudge. If you turn this off. So these are already kind of blurry, but this is your blur tool, blur. Get it right. There it is. Okay, so as you can see, I'm blurring stuff. That's your blur, right? You can blur it. And of course you have your different options, your strength up here. You can change it to whatever, 50%, 10%, whatever. And then you have your sharpen tool. And so if I do, again, there's a bunch of tools up here to get the desired effect. So now if I do it, now you see it sharpens, and you can over sharpen it. Right now it's really, really sharp, and it's just too much. Actually, let me go back to revert. So now I just went back to when I opened it. And again, I have to, because I reverted it, I have to go to backgrounds and change the backgrounds for me to edit it. Smudge tool, basically this is your smudge tool. It's kind of like a blur, but it's a smudging, kind of like blending. These are your color dodge. These kind of just do color things to it. So you can lighten it, color, you can burn it. And you can sponge it. All right, this tool right here is for your pen tool. All right, so real quick, there's two types of graphics, okay? There's a pixel-based graphic or bitmap, in which things are built up by squares of colors, like what you see here, right? Little squares of color. The other type of graphic is called path and vectors. And so basically you set little paths, not paths, points and vectors. So that type of graphic is called vector-based. And that the computer understands it as shapes. Illustrator is a vector-based program, but in Photoshop, you can do some vector-based. So if I click on the pen tool and I do a series of points, and then here you see this little bubble next to the pen, that means I've closed this path, okay? And if I click and hold it again, I use this tool. Now I can click on these paths and I can make them do different shapes as I need them to, okay? Is there a move? Free transform, okay. So let's say I need to add a path. I can click on the line and I've just added a path. This is a very basic tool set for this type of mode. And let's say I need to delete one, so I can click. So now I have my delete tool. I can click on one and it just deleted that little point, okay? So what can I do with this now that I have this shape? Over here in this tool window, which I don't see it, and we'll go to paths. Here it is, paths. And don't worry, I'm going to explain these tools over here too. You'll have this window here. See, it says paths. So I click in here and I can go save path, delete path, but I can fill path and I can stroke path, right? But I can make path as a selection, okay? And let's do one. And then now you see that it's a selection, okay? But basically it's for making shapes, silhouetted shapes. It's more powerful in Photoshop. And if you're going to do this, I would suggest you do it in Photoshop. I'm sorry, Illustrator. But Photoshop does have the ability to do some path work. Okay. That was paths. Okay. This is your text tool. You can click on this and you'll see this little icon like this. And now you can type text. And because this is my foreground color, it's made my text this color. I can highlight it, select all, and I can click up here and I can change the color to whatever color I want. And then now it's that color. Okay. There's different things in here. You can, instead of typing, left to right, it'll go up to down, and then you can actually make selectable. Let's see if I can. So basically, what it does is that, where is this? I'm going to click this out for now and go back to my layers. So this is a little neat trick right here. I've selected the outside of the lettering, and so if I actually select this, I can turn this off. But now I can control copy, and it'll copy what's underneath here, which is this lady's face, and I can do a control paste. And now it doesn't really look like it did anything. But if I turn off the background, and you'll see that the selection is selected inside the lettering of the background, and I have this colorful lettering. So basically what these bottom ones do is just what I've done, what I just showed you. So the cool thing about Photoshop is that there's multiple ways to go about doing something. And this is an example of just that. Okay, it's a different way I went about doing it. This tool, oh, this is your path selection. So I could have grabbed, I don't know why this is down here. I could have grabbed some of those points and moved them around. So let's see if I can do that real quick to show you. Okay, so now I can actually grab this one path. I should be able to. I'm gonna direct path tool. There it is. I can move it around. See, I can move that one around. I can move this one around. And with this tool, I can actually move the paths around. I can move the points around by clicking them and moving them, but it actually gives me the ability to move some of the paths around too. But if I want to get more depth, then I have to use this tool, and I can actually, hold on a second. Hey, Poppy, you're getting some feedback. Wait, are we good now? You guys good?
Probably because maybe.
I think, can you turn the audio off on yours? Or does it need to be on? Okay. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah, okay. Oh, okay, so that's another path tool, is these little arrows. Is it my phone? Oh, I'm using my phone to talk.
Yeah. So, not much we can do.
Okay.
We can turn the volume down a little bit on your phone.
Oh, okay, so next time I hear it, I'll use the volume. Okay. So, okay. And so this tool is your shapes. Getting some feedback here. There we go. Hopefully that works. Okay, so right now I have a square shape and a rectangle shape, and it will fill with the color that is in the foreground here. Okay, let's say we're going to change the color. Okay, and I'll make so this one's is a rectangle square, but it has rounded edges. Okay. Oh, okay, I got to change it up here. So let's change this color to blue, I guess. There we go. Here's your circle or elliptical. polygon, line, and custom. So this one, let's do a line real quick. There's your line tool. You can edit it. Also, it makes a new layer. So these are all new layers. So each one of these tools or shapes is on its own layer, independent of the background. Also, if you see this little square right here, this means that these are smart objects. And sometimes when they're smart objects, you can't edit them. There's certain things you can't do, okay? So if you're trying to edit something and it has this little square on it down here, and you're like, why isn't it doing what I know it should be doing? You can right click on this layer and go to rasterize layer. Basically, it means that it's just gonna make it a bunch of squares, pixels. And now you see that it's gone. And then now you should be able to edit it with the tool that you want to, okay? Let me grab these and throw them away. Don't need them. And you have a custom shape tool, okay? And so when you select this, you'll get these custom shapes and they're up here. And so basically any shape that's up here, so I click on this one and I click and drag and it makes that shape, okay? Click again, I can get a heart, makes that shape. Makes that shape. Okay, you can actually add shape. Oh, like, yeah, so you want to put a copyright on something, boom, you have a copyright.
Hey, John,
Yes.
how would you add font, like a saying or a word to a piece, but like curve it in a circle or something like you had to do for the logo that you designed? Or
Oh, yeah, you go here and you just say whatever it is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So basically you have to be in here. And I think you have to select it. You have to highlight it. If you go right here, you'll see a T with a little curve in it. You click on it and you'll have these options, okay? And so right now there's none. And so I want to do an arc. And so you can arc it like that. And you can grab this little guy right here and you can adjust the arc. Okay. And then there's a horizontal arc. You can make it bigger on one side or on the other side. Or you can do a vertical like that. So the best way I can say to learn what does what is just to mess around with it, really. Just play around with it. But that's what the goal of this workshop is to just get you introduced to certain ideas and certain tools, so that way you can know how to select a tool, lay down what it is that you want to lay down, and then you can play with the options of that particular tool and see what they do, because that's kind of half the fun. Okay, this is a little hand tool, and you can rotate. Okay, so basically I can use this little hand tool and it moves the whole image around. So instead of me zooming in and out and, you know, like say I'm working here, like say I'm working in this little thing right here, but I want to stay zoomed in, but I want to work down here. And so instead of zooming out and moving down here, I can just click this little hand tool, hold this the space bar button, and click and drag and move around. Okay. This is your magnifying glass, and this is kind of zooms in. So basically these are, you could zoom in with this, you could zoom out. As if I hold Alt, I can zoom out. And then if you click on here, there's more, you can add more tools to your toolbar. Now this is your colors. You click on here and you can switch between your colors. So if I had my brush tool, if I was painting, it would be the white color because your white is forward. Now, if I was painting, it'd be my black. Now I could double click in here and I can use my color scale here, and I can pick just by clicking inside here, what color that I want, okay? And if I move it, it moves in color too. Now, here's the thing. Remember we talked about RGB and CMYK and some of the colors being outside the gamut that it couldn't produce. So right now, this color that I have is green. This is the color that I was using. This is the color I have currently selected. And this color with this little exclamation mark means that within the color gamut that I'm currently in, RGB, it cannot reproduce this color accurately. And that's why that color that's what it's telling me here, okay? So if I absolutely need that color, I'm kind of in a bind. But if I don't need that exact color, I can choose this other color, and now that color is gone, and now it'll produce that color. Where's my brush? Here it is. Okay. So now when I use my brush, now it uses that green color. Okay. Okay. And just real quick here, let's see, make this selection here. So this is a selection. These are called marching ants, and you can make it in any shape that you want, but you can also turn it into basically a this color mode here. And so basically what it's telling you is that everything that's like this, where the red isn't, this is selected. And where the red is not selected. And for me to edit this, I would go to my paintbrush, okay? And I'm using, let me choose something smaller and a different brush. There we go, okay. So, okay, choose my flow so everything's up. And I'm gonna make it a hard edge. No, that's a soft edge. Okay, I'm gonna make it a hard edge. So now it's a hard edge, okay? And I just made this red part uneditable. Okay, so if I click on this button down here again, you'll see that now the marching ants goes around the brush where I just told it not to be, okay, using the red. I'll click on this again and hit, okay, so now let's say I want to add to the selection, I would choose my white, and then now wherever I delete the red, now is the editable selection that I've made. So that's another way to get exactly this, the masking that you want, okay? And then this one down here is a mode that goes through different options for how you can see Photoshop. So full screen, I don't know if I want to mess with this too much because I don't want to mess up the feed, but basically there's three options. So you can make it so that this bar is gone and it's only these tabs, and you have more real estate for your image, okay? Or you can click it in which you have these bars and you have less real estate for your image, but you have more real estate for your tools. Or you can click it and basically it's just the whole screen is your image that you're working with. Okay. Okay, so that is the toolbar over here, and you can make it disappear, click here, or you can change it around, of course, to be shorter, or you can click on it and you can move it around to wherever you need it. Okay, any questions on that? No? Okay. Edit, okay, edit image. These here, okay, so here is your color modes again. So once you've opened it in a certain color mode, you can change it. Okay, you're not stuck with it. And again, here's your bitmaps, your bits. You can change your bits. Okay. You can change your color brightness using adjustments. This is your color and contrast brightness. This is your levels. Oh, I think I have to. There we go. We'll try it again. Levels. Where's my layers? Here we go. So make sure you're always on the right layer. Okay. That's why sometimes your options don't work. Okay, so now that I'm on the right layer, let me go to levels, and here's some level settings, and I can make it darker. I can make my darks darker, so I can make my lights lighter. And so this is a way to do some color correct or color correction, but basically it's to lighten or darken your image, okay? This middle one kind of does your middle tones, okay? These are your, it's the same way, it's kind of the same thing, but it's done in a curve way. Exposure, this is like if your photography, you can mess with your exposure. Your vibrance, basically this messes with the intensity of your colors. Hue saturation, you can change your hues this way, okay? You can intensify your colors, or you could desaturate your colors. And this is, again, another way to do lighting or darkening. Like I said, there's just multiple ways to do certain things. And it depends on how you want to go about doing it. Some options, some tools and options have more options than others. Okay, so when I choose hue saturation and I go lighting or darkening, I can lighten darken it, but it's kind of limited. I can actually go adjust and go to, I think it's exposure. Yeah, I go to exposure and I actually have more fine controls using this if that's what I want to do, if I want to lighten or darken it. Okay, black and white just changes to black and white, and then I can choose like the reds, and this will affect the reds in the black and white. So I don't think there's a lot of greens. So if I mess with the greens in this image, you see that not much changes, because in the original image there's not a lot of greens. So basically, these are the colors in the image that you're using that will darken or lighten when you mess with them. But basically, this is how you mess with your values and your colors. Now, say if you want to just make it a black and white, you can go to desaturate right here, and it'll just make it black and white. Auto tone, auto contrast, and auto color. So if you're not familiar with these or know how to use these, you can actually just go auto tone, auto color. So let's do an auto color, and then we'll do an auto contrast. And contrast didn't too much, but you can see that the auto color kind of made it more natural colors than what it was before. So for beginners, you could use these and it'll work. Image size is basically, again, the physical size of the image, and you can see that the resolution is at 200. If you have this little thing on or off, if you have it on, if you change one dimension, it'll change the other dimension, so it keeps it in scale. Canvas size, basically it will add more canvas to, it'll add more image to the overall image. So let's say this, and I can move it up or down, but I'm going to keep it in the center, and you'll see what happens. So now, what I've done is I added this extra parts to the image. I made the image bigger, but I kept the original image proportional, and it's inside the new sized image that I've done. So what the difference is that image size will make this image bigger or smaller, and canvas size will add more image or smaller. Image rotation is pretty self-explanatory. Trim, yeah, you just trim it, reveal all. Calculations of variables. Don't really worry about these ones too much. Measure. Layer has to do, these functions have to do with basically layers. So right now I'm in layers. These are my layers. And when I do a command over here, it'll mess with these. So right now I have 3, if you look on the right hand side over here, I have 3 layers. And let's say that there's actually still like I have this lettering over here. So I can actually go down to flatten here, and it will turn everything into one layer. Okay, but that's only if you're done editing and you know that you're done and you can just hit that. And basically it kind of saves space, but it also enhances certain other things for when it's saved and you're trying to send it somewhere. And again, you're in the background mode and you might not want that when you're editing. So let's go back. So that's that. Okay, type has to do with your type. This tool here, your letters and stuff like that. And in here you'll have, I think I need to actually put something. You'll have your font size, yeah, resize type. Well, actually up here, you'll see your font size. So you'll have to select it. And you can change your font size to bigger, smaller, regular. You can change your font style, sharpen. You can adjust left or right, your colors. And here's another way to, like I said, this is how you bow it. Your bow, you can do your bowing of the font. Select. So your selection has to do, of course, with your marching ants. Okay, and you can go into selection and you can deselect, which is Control D. And I've been using Control D this whole time. You can inverse. Remember, I told you inverse. Shift Control I. All layers. You can select all layers when you have your selection made. Some important stuff here is modify. So here you can choose to smooth it if it's jaggedy. You can choose to expand. So basically you can tell it to expand this is 1 pixel, but you can tell it expand 5 pixels or whatever, however many pixels you want. So it makes it slightly bigger. You can make it contract, make it smaller, and you can make it feather so that way it doesn't have a sharp edge, it has a smooth gradation edge. Transform, basically you can just move it around and reshape it, and then you can save it. And so I can say whatever, and now let's say I deselect it, but I need that selection back. I go here, I can go to load, and is it not new selection? Here it is, test. So you go to channel, go to test, which is what I named it. And if you have more than one, they'll be right here. So say test 2 and test 3, choose the one that you want, hit OK, and then your selection is back. All right, and that's your selection. Your filters, these are your filters. These are really cool. So these can make noise, they can distort, they can blur. You can sharpen, which is some of the stuff that we've already done. Diffuse. What's really cool is your filter gallery. Oh, that is the wrong one. Let me get on the right layer. It's important that you're on the right layer. Okay, go to gallery. And you can do like, you can do art filters, and you can mess with these numbers, which do different things. Smudge, poster,
right now.
palette knife. So they just do different things. And this is, here's a watercolor, underpainting. And again, you just mess with these and you get what you want. But again, that's just something you have to experiment with. 3D, kind of outside the scope of what we're doing here. View, you can view, I guess, information. Oh, this is pretty interesting. Okay, so let me do this real quick. So if you hit Control and R, what is this? Oh, I think, hold on. What's going on? Yeah, I think I hit something. I think I'm in something in the.
still in Photoshop.
Yeah, it's still in Photoshop, but look, I can't. I'll look up over there,
Maybe
and I can't select anything.
it's like,
Oh, wait, mouse. Here we go. Okay, I think I got it. There we go. Haha. All right, so let's make this a little bigger. Oh, okay. Control R. You'll see I have rulers up here, and I can make guides. I can make these guides, okay? So with view, you see I have, here's my rulers. You see I have snap and snap to. So now if I, hold on a second, make sure it's snap. Make sure my snaps are on. So if I click on a layer, it will automatically snap to the rulers or whatever I tell it to snap to. So I can go to snap to grid layers. So I can make it snap to other layers. Right now I just have it snap to rulers. And so if you need to get things exactly, somewhere, it'll just snap to these rulers. So that's snap. Lock guides, you can lock your guides. You can clear canvas guides, all this stuff. Also, all these things that are over here, like color, layers and colors and swatches, you can turn these on and off over here with your window, and you just find the one that you want. So let's say I need libraries. Let's say I need styles. So here's my styles. Okay, and I can dock these together. Let's see here, color. I think colors are already there. Yeah, colors are already here. But yeah, so these all right now are not turned on, and you can find them here. Okay, and then up here you have in workspace, you have like essential. You can move it around. So this is essential workspace, and graphic and web photography. So if you're a photographer, you might want to just use these. But the thing is that you're not locked into these. So you hit photography and these will come up, but you can add and delete them as you need. Well, you turn them off. You're not really deleting them. So you can customize them, but you can do like a broad stroke of what you might need. So if you do motion, like you do animation or something like that, you can use this one. Graphics and webs. And so, here's this one. But like say I needed something like 3D, I could add 3D. So these are totally customizable. Okay.
just so you know, it is.
Yeah. So do we have any questions before we end this? No?
Yeah. Can you do animation and cartoons on Photoshop, or is that a completely different program?
You can. I've never done it, but I know that you can to a certain extent. So Photoshop is kind of it's a jack of all trades. So you can kind of do certain things, you know what I mean? That's not particular to Photoshop. So Photoshop's shining examples are basically photography and computer graphics, where you can take images and mush them together and make scenes of, like, say, fantasy scenes or something like that. I mean, you can do that in other programs too, but you can take two images that are like pictures and kind of mash them together and make one image out of it. So that's kind of the superstar of Photoshop, but it's a jack of all trades. You can do a lot of stuff with it.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. So if there's no more questions, then that'll conclude this workshop. And thank you for attending. And
Thank you.
I will see, well, Leslie, I will see you later.
Yes, you will. Nice to meet you, Anita.
Yeah,
And,
thanks. Nice meeting you.
and Denny, haven't seen you in a while. Looking forward to the vaccine so everybody can get together at the Elsie Mae Goodwin Gallery again.
Yeah, we can all hang out again.
Yeah. Right,
Juanita, it
take
was nice meeting you.
Excuse me?
I said it was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. This was great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. And Denny, I'll talk to you later, if you're still awake.
Thank you, John. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
John. Thank you, John. Thank you, Alicia. Have a great weekend.
Thank you,
Right.
everyone, for attending. I'm gonna
Okay.
go ahead and end the live and end the workshop now. Thank you again, John. It was awesome. All right, everyone, have a great day and catch you later. Bye.
Right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.